Hey guys, so should you buy a retail outlet or a shop in an emerging area of Dubai? Is it going to be a profitable investment for you? Is it good for you? To know the answer, watch this video till the end. Hit the subscribe button, press the bell icon. My name is Fahd Dawood. I talk about real estate internationally and locally about Dubai, your life and my life, and our path to financial bliss. I'm also the author of the internationally listed on Amazon, my book called the Intelligent Real Estate Investor. You can buy it from Amazon, you can download an ebook. You want to work with me, reach out to me. I do charge a fee. If you want free advice, free question answered, hit me in the comment section on YouTube. I'm happy to answer on YouTube. So this is a question that comes from one of my subscribers. He asks me about buying a retail outlet in an emerging area of Dubai. Okay, now here's the thing. Now I don't have all the facts with me, like where exactly, what's the price, what are the future prospects of this area, what's in his mind, because he might have certain information that will actually help assess the deal better. But based on the information he has and based on my market experience, I'm going to get into some details of retail outlets in Dubai. Look, investing in retail or shops is a completely different animal compared to residential. Just like investing in a commercial office space is completely different than residential. There are investors out there who like offices, some like residential, and in residential some people like villas, apartments, townhouses, so on and so forth. And there are some who are very fine-tuned or like retail outlets, right? Like shops, okay? There's many reasons for you to like that because shops are essentially taken on by businesses. They are sometimes more serious. They might not want to bounce their checks because you've got to keep your business running. They might get into long-term contracts with you. So if you've got this large space that you need to rent out to a department store or a supermarket, right? The supermarket's not going to fit out the entire shop and then just do a one-year contract with you. They're going to do a 5, 10, 15, maybe 20-year contract with you, right? With an incremental rent every year, etc., etc. So there's many reasons why a shop might be attractive for certain people. But what I would like to do is express to you the shop journey in the Dubai real estate market so that you are well versed and understand what you might be getting into so that you are able to make a better decision. This is how the Dubai landscape kind of like took off, okay? In the beginning, not everybody knew what they were doing, except that everybody wanted to make money. So you put up a tower, right? And it sounds good that if you have retail outlets at the bottom, if you're selling parts of the tower as residential, you are also going to price the shops and sell them. No big deal. That's awesome, right? Why wouldn't you sell the shop as you're selling the residential tower as well? Now, what essentially happened in large pockets of Dubai, so I'm talking about Dubai Marina, International City, Culture Village, Motor City, so on and so forth, the retail outlets were sold to individuals, which, if you understand anything about the shopping experience, causes a very fragmented experience for the end user that's going by there, right? For example, let's look at the example of a mall, okay? If you see a mall very strategically puts an anchor store like a department store so that it can get some traffic in, and then it'll have some banks strategically placed around the mall. It will have some hair salons, it will have perhaps a nursery, so on and so forth. What the mall does not allow is, if it's got 1 or 2 female hair salons, it's not going to allow 10 female hair salons, because even though the opportunity might be very lucrative or great because that area might have a lot of high female foot traffic, it's just not going to be very conducive to other people who are going to be visiting the mall, right? So essentially speaking, what's happened in Dubai is developers started recognizing that, ideally speaking, to give the residents in the tower a better experience, they should not sell off the retail space underneath the tower. Why? Because then the developer can manage in a good way to add value to the resident's life, right? So if you've got, let's say, 10 shops underneath a residential tower which has 300 or 400 or 500 residents or families, you can sublet those shops to a bank, to Baskin Robbins, to a pizza parlor, to an Indian food place, to a Subway, to a fast food place, to a nice coffee shop, etc., etc., etc. Now, if the developer sold these shops to individual end investors, what would happen is the investors would end up renting the shops out at their own pricing, at their own requirements and needs, and to their own tenants, which would not allow for a good mix to come up, right? So sometimes some investors would be very stubborn on pricing and they won't rent it out. Sometimes they are in need of cash and they'll rent it out to the first person who comes to them. So now that you understand the landscape of how retail outlets work in Dubai, you will be able to put two and two together and know that the good areas in Dubai control the way the retail space is utilized. Now, I'm not going to go into the downtown area, which pretty much Emaar controls, or some of the other areas that Dubai Properties control, because they figured out that to add value to the residential formula, they need to add good retail space that adds value to the residents or the family's life, right? So they figured it out. I'm going to give you another example of Dubai Silicon Oasis. Dubai Silicon Oasis is essentially free, it's leasehold community, but a lot of buildings over there have shops which are sold off to individual investors. But what Dubai Silicon Oasis figured, which is, I think it's smart in some ways, it's very good, is that instead of allowing the investors to just rent it out randomly to whoever they want, each investor, their tenant, must go through an approval process to be able to start operating that kind of business that they want to do, right? So there are maybe like 50 towers in Dubai Silicon Oasis. Guess what? Nurseries would be in high demand. I wouldn't be surprised if there were 10 or 20 nurseries operating in Dubai Silicon Oasis. Like, Dubai has a very Western lifestyle. Husband, wife works, they want to put their babies in a nursery, etc., so on and so forth. But Dubai Silicon Oasis doesn't allow that, because when you get 10 nurseries all competing with each other, none survive properly, right? Those nurseries take up space that could be providing other retail value to the residents over there, so on and so forth. So now that you understand the retail mix, you're going to be able to understand what or where you're going to be operating in, right? So if you're going to, oh, by the way, there's other costs that you would need to pay attention to. So remember, retail rent or commercial rent in Dubai carries a 5% VAT. So the tenant has to pay you and you've got to remit it to the government, so on and so forth. 5% or this VAT of 5% is relatively still new in Dubai. Came in on January 1st, 2018. So the market's still adjusting to it, but you got to know the reality. So every time you buy the shop, you pay 5% VAT. Every time you sell the shop, you pay a 5% VAT over the 4%. But that's just the costs, right? But you need to understand the fabric, the landscape of where the retail outlet's going to be operating, right? That's number one. So I hope I was able to explain that. But then now you go to the other side, okay? You know that we've gone just through a situation that was interesting, like the pandemic still ongoing, right? We've got vaccine trials going on in the UAE, Russia, China, so on and so forth. How does this translate for you? Okay, I foresee flower shops not existing in the next 2 to 5 years, right? People just go online and click and buy flowers. I see a lot of things that might not exist the same way they exist now. So retail is going through a tough period. So you're going to have to really think about who's going to be renting that shop from you. And then when you talk about an emerging area of Dubai, like, you know, fine, Dubai grows, expands, tenants come in from Sharjah, Ajman, internationally, and things go back to normal at certain point, 1 year, 2 years, etc. So how long are you going to wait for foot traffic to start coming in to be able to rent out that retail shop? So you got to think about that, right? So any tenant that rents out that retail shop from you is going to want customers coming in to be able to pay you rent. You're going to be looking at interesting models. Like for instance, during this pandemic situation, restaurants were closing down and landlords did not, or have still not, reacted fast enough. Like, now it's easier said than done. If I was a landlord and I owned a restaurant, again, it's easier said than done because I have my own expenses. I can't just reduce your rent. But this is where landlords had to come in and talk to their end clients, because you got to remember, when restaurants are operating, they're operating at a certain model. So let's say I'm allowed 100 seats and I fill them all on weekends for 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and rest of the time I'm operating at 50% capacity. I'm assuming and estimating that all the money I generate from this, I'm going to be able to pay your rent, pay my staff, and a little bit of money or a lot of money in my pocket so I can grow my chain, etc. All of a sudden during the pandemic, everything closed down to zero, and then people started coming in at 50% capacity, right? So landlords had to go to their tenants and then say, listen, Mr. Tenant, you're operating at 50% capacity, let's reevaluate rent. And then as you start going back to 100% capacity, we will start increasing your rent again. Or let's take a little 10% profit off of the monies that you make in the restaurant, etc., etc. You have to come up with interesting models to make things work. So all that said and done, you're looking to invest in a retail outlet in an emerging place. Try to assess how much foot traffic is going to be coming for you to get an attractive tenant. That's one. Last but not the least, the entire deal kind of flips on its entire face if you're being offered an extremely attractive price. So if market price for a certain property at some places $1 million or $1 million, you can pick it up for $400,000. You know, things kind of change, reverse. It's a deal that you'll really need to assess. And this is what I believe would be happening perhaps in your situation. You've got a developer who's distressed. They're looking to offload some assets that just make sense to them right now. Let's just sell them and get the cash in. But just know you're going to be getting stuck in a very interesting retail mix that you don't control. Therefore, tread with care. It's not a no-no. Just know all the facts before you say yes. Ciao for now. Hit the subscribe button. Press the bell icon. If you got other questions about real estate investment in Dubai, anywhere else in the world, hit me up. If you want to work with me, hit me up in the comment section, because that's how I now am taking my questions and answering. But if you've got if you want to work with me individually, if you want to have the VIP package, which is where I take you from A to Z, then hit me up. Like, there is a fee I charge. But if you just want to do a strategy session, evaluate an opportunity, do some hardcore pricing on the property that you're looking to buy or sell, you want just help with negotiation or with the handover process, I've got a full team that's led by my expertise, or we can help you. Ciao for now. Catch you on the other side.